Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time series, Book 11, Knife of Dreams. Robert Jordan's last chance to give us a good book before his unfortunate and untimely death, and he delivered. This is the book that I alluded to during my last review, the book that I was so delusionally waiting for, and this book did everything right. This book just did so much for all of these, what I found to be boring or drawn out storylines. This book did such a fantastic job of wrapping them up in just a beautiful package and setting up the future storylines that we're going to be going with and for the next foreseeable future. Perrin's storyline that has been dragging on for 4 books now is finally over, and it is over in such a cool way where he's allied with the Shan-Chan. They come up with this very risky plan to knock out these 400 plus channelers that are in the Aiel camp, and lucky for them it works. It kind of evens the odds where he has enough Aes Sedai and Ashaman and wise ones that they're just kind of evened out on that front. And then he's got the Shan-Chan at his back. He's got Massima's men fighting on the other side, just rabid dogs. Sheer numbers getting thrown at this force, and he's just barreling through the camp looking for his wife. Where, first off, Aram, I actually really disliked this about this. It felt kind of, I understand he set it up a little bit, but it felt totally wrong that Aram would get corrupted by Massima like that. And I just didn't like that. I didn't like the way he went out, just an arrow in the back. And I understand Perrin couldn't, it would have been too much to have Perrin kill him, but I did not like that turn of events. I thought that was pretty bad. I didn't like that. But when Perrin, just sees his wife getting dragged by this giant Aiel, and he just goes and without even thinking, right, which is something that he has always been afraid of, without assessing the situation, his blood's hot, he's in battle, without thinking, he sees a Shido with his wife in his arm, and he just goes and kills him and the other guys. And man, what a crazy cool scene, and I loved that whole battle. Elayne's War of Succession is finally over. I have hated this storyline for the past 2 books. I think it is the worst. Elayne is, at this point, she is the most unlikable character to me. This book didn't help her out really in my liking of her, which is not to say that she was written poorly, just I really don't like her as a character at all. I think she is extremely stuck up, which she is of royal lineage and has grown up in the sheltered palace life, right? So I understand that. But the fact that, she just got multiple Aes Sedai killed, whenever she gets captured, she gets hundreds, if not thousands of men killed, and not just killed, but destroyed from the pattern with balefire. And then whenever she gets rescued and Brigitte comes and saves her and breaks her out of her bonds, she cracks a joke. What took you so long? I really didn't like it. I don't like Elayne as a person, but I am so happy that she is finally crowned queen and we can just be done with that. I loved the Mat storyline. Mat and Tuon having this great relationship together, honestly, this really compelling courtship where Mat is courting her and she is allowing him to court. She thinks it's a fun game. And this book has one of my favorite scenes in the entire series whenever Mat finally meets up with Talmanis again after more than 4 books now, right? 5 books maybe? 6? I forget when he left the Band of the Red Hand. He's finally reunited with the band. He's finally reunited with Talmanis. And Tuon, who has only ever known him as toy, as this, plaything, he's finally in his element. In her words, a lion can look very silly whenever it's not in its element. And when he finally gets in his element and he's reviewing these maps and Tuon's like, what the heck is going on? It's so satisfying, and that is one of my favorite scenes in the entire series. I loved it. I also loved all of his battles that he had and all this fun, this great escape of Tuon, and then she finally marries him. It's fantastic, and he becomes Prince of the Ravens. And even though he's fighting the Shan-Chan, he is also, without knowing exactly how the hierarchy of the Imperial family works, he's basically second in command in Shan-Chan now, right? Tuon being the new empress, and then he is the Prince of the Ravens, who is her husband. He's number 2 now. So he's great. And then I loved how there's this anticipation of Rand going to see the Daughter of the Nine Moons, and we know as the reader, well, heck, that can't be the Daughter of the Nine Moons because we know she's with Matt. And then, just waiting to see who it actually is going to be. It's Semirog. And then Semirog reveals to everybody that, hey, he is insane. He is hearing voices. But hey, this voice is real. And that's even worse for him. But him losing his hand, that whole thing, it was a lot of fun. Lews Therin taking control of the power, needing Rand to raise his hands for him to do these death gates and these fire arrows, I forget what they're exactly called, these pillars of blossoms, whatever they're all called. And then Logain kind of snitching on him, like, oh, hey, what the heck's going on? Why are you holding so much of the power? And then he makes a deal with the real Lews Therin in his head that he will allow them to die at the last battle. During that time, we also got our first ever point of view from Loial. When he's getting married, he gets married, and then him and Elder Hammond put the long handles on their axes, and they're shouting Trollocs, and it's what a cool scene for them that was as well. And then, and I know I said Matt had one of my favorite scenes through the whole series, Nynaeve also had one of my favorite scenes from the whole series. Nynaeve dropping Lan off in the Borderlands and going ahead and speaking to the Malkiri merchant in the Borderlands and rallying the other Malkiri troops and soldiers around Lan to try to get them to go support him. When I was reading that chapter 20, I know, because it was in the car on my way to work, and I was getting chills listening to her talking to these Malkiri. That chapter was fantastic. Chapter 20 was the best one in this book, no questions asked. And now this book is also setting up the next few books so well. Setting up that, hey, Moraine is alive, and it has to be Matt, it has to be Tom, and then it has to be one other, which is probably going to be the old man in Matt's party, the cousin to Jane Farstrider. We also have Egwene set up in the tower. Her storyline is fine. I still don't care for her, but it's whatever. She couldn't ruin this book for me. Everything else was so great that her scenes were fine. There were far and few between, and it was all right. I'll give it to her. And then the end of this book, the last dialogue that we get is Mazrim Taim, the Mahale, the one who is the leader of the Black Tower, saying, "Let the Lord of Chaos rule." What a way to just close out this book and drop a dang hammer on this whole thing. I loved it. There's nothing else I can say. This was a work of art. And I don't know if when Robert Jordan was writing this book, he found out that he was going to die, and if he knew that this was going to be his last book that he was going to be able to finish in his series. Because, man, it felt like it. It felt like this was his last hurrah, and he went back to his roots, and he didn't drag anything out. Everything was concise. Everything was where it needed to be. He did a wonderful job. So I'm so happy that he was able to go out with one of the strongest books that he's written in this series. Top 3 for me for sure. And I think that this was fantastic. Next book, book 12, The Gathering Storm, is the first book after Robert Jordan's death, co-written by Brandon Sanderson. So I will be moving on to that one next, and I will let you guys know what I think and how Brandon Sanderson does on his first time writing in Robert Jordan's voice. So with that, everybody, Thanks for watching. Hey, Nick here. If you enjoyed this video, please gently caress that like button for us.
And Ray, thanks for watching. It was a blast. Make sure to hit that subscribe if you want to stay up to date with what we're doing, what me and him are doing. There. Me and him, Nick and Ray. Subscribe.